came up for Joe Habib's stream, and they were discussing if 175 is too big a division with Canelo. Now, there's a coach on there, Coach Williams. Shout out to Coach Williams. We're trying to argue that it was too big for Canelo. First of all, I asked him about Joe Smith Jr. He took him Canelo would beat Joe Smith Jr. Habib was an advocate for Joe Smith Jr., thinking that Joe Smith Jr. could beat Canelo. Honestly, I don't think it has anything to do with weight. It has to do with style. And I express why. And so the coach, he couldn't hurt Bevo. What's he going to do if he can't hurt the guy? And the guy comes after him, uses defense. Canelo's not going to get knocked out by nobody anytime soon. He got defense. Did Canelo ever hurt Danny Jacobs? No. Did he ever seriously hurt Triple G? No. Canelo can fight you and still win a fight, even if he doesn't hurt you. Of late, he's been stopping guys. Okay? And if you think he can't punch, Bevo's arm was red. You just couldn't touch Bevo. You know what I'm saying? Couldn't touch him. Defense. Joe Smith Jr. don't got no defense like that. Artur Beterbiev don't got defense like that. Who we kidding? These guys get caught up in size, power, or strength. And seeing these guys wreck other guys. And because Canelo lost to Bevo, Juske, what's up? In such a comprehensive manner, they're now thinking Canelo can't fight nobody, none of the other top guys at 175. So just a couple hours before, they were saying Canelo, yeah, man, he could beat Alexander Usyk, right? Now after seeing him face Bivol, they changed the tune. But to the coach's credit, he didn't say that. He said I would have to see him against Joe Smith Jr. But the other guys on the cast started to change their view. Joe Habib and so on. Joe Habib, he agreed with me initially in the beginning, saying, weight is an excuse. And let me tell you why weight is an excuse. The biggest point of them all. Who first beat Canelo? Who first beat Canelo? Was it a guy bigger than him? Was weight an issue when Canelo lost to Floyd Mayweather? Oh, it was a catch weight. Come on, man. Was weight an issue when Canelo fought itty bitty Floyd? Since we're going with itty bitty Canelo versus big Bivol, and Bivol was so much bigger than Canelo, which he wasn't. Well, Canelo's first loss was against a welterweight. Right? He was a super welterweight. So if size is the big issue y'all using as an excuse, and not Canelo's lack of foot activity, so that once again you guys making excuses for the dude so he don't improve his game. You understand what I'm saying? He'll never address the real issue, the real elephant in the room. I got Canelo beating Bevo. BWF. I got Canelo beating Joe Smith Jr. They are not fighters like Dimitri Bivol. Dimitri Bivol, even though he's not as well known, Joe Smith Jr. made his name off of beating Bernard Hopkins. Joe Smith Jr. is no Dimitri Bivol. Joe Smith Jr. is not no defensive wizard. He's an underrated boxer, I agree. He uses certain boxing skills. But he's nowhere in the landscape of Dimitri Bivol. He's not that kind of fighter. And just because he feels Bivol was able to handle Canelo with his jab. Don't mean Canelo handles jabbers, man. He been handling jabbers for the beginning. You have to bring something special. And guess what? Joe Smith Jr. don't got that footwork, don't got that movement to go behind that jab. He's not beating Canelo. Canelo's too quick for him. And Bitty BF is too slow. Canelo without box, Bitty BF. And I'm not of the opinion, like most, that Triple G beat Canelo in the first fight. No way. Well, Canelo was unable to land his money punches on Bivol because Bivol kept range and distance, and he's a defensive fighter. When Canelo was throwing his bombs, Bivol was shelling up complete and then countering. So, we can't talk about Canelo versus Dimitri Bivol disqualifying him from going to 175 and continuing his trek in 175. You know what I mean? Now, another question Joe Habib brought up, which I think is a good question. Do you think Canelo should take the rematch? I'm always with the fighter. Anthony Joshua is immediately rematching Alexander Usyk. Of course, he wants to get back his belts. Anthony Joshua was very successful in immediately rematching Andy Ruiz in a rematch in which I thought Andy Ruiz would win again. And I was wrong. So we'll see how Anthony Joshua versus Usyk pans out in the rematch. If Canelo wants an immediate rematch, I like that. That's the heart of a true champion. But I'm not going to stand in his way. I'm not going to tell him what he can do and what he can't do. But what I will say is, it's a high uphill to climb to beat Dimitri Bivol. You know? That's what I'll say. A lot of guys, when you start talking boxing with them, they get a little lost. That's what happened in the group. When I was talking about the pace of the fight and dictating. The thing with Canelo, of late he's been dictating the pace of the fight against his opponents. So he's able to walk them down. In this fight with Bivol, but that's not always the case. He's not always walking down his opponent. Okay? In this case, he couldn't walk down Bivol, so he tried to bait Bivol in and trap set. Bivol, of course, he has a really great lead hand, was able to pick him off from the outside. And a casual boxing fan will say, well, if Bivol could do that, imagine what Bitter BF could do, and Joe Smith Jr. No. They don't have that ring IQ. Canelo beats both those guys. However, I do believe Demetrius Andrade is a tremendous threat. One guy said, "Well, he should face Demetrius Andrade." Then I was like, "Hell no!" If Bebo's giving him that kind of trouble, just imagine what Andrade would do. So David Benavidez is a much more exciting fight. Benavidez is big like a 175 pounder. Um, doesn't have as tight a defense. Let's say a Bebo. He's exciting. He has certain vulnerabilities. That would be a good fight for Canelo. Are all the fights? Chala, Andrade, Triple G. And people are asking for that fight. I think that's a winnable fight for Canelo. Andrade would beat him, I think. And I think Charlo would have a good chance. Again, Charlo's his reaction time, the quickness. People don't realize how quick Bivol is. That's how he's able, his reaction time. He's able to react to Canelo. When you got a fighter that's super slow, like a Biddy or Joe Smith Jr., they're in a different time zone to you. It's easy to counterpunch them, time them, etc. Against Bivol, they say Canelo looked old, lethargic. It's not that. Reaction time's about the same. They're equally as quick as one another because Bivol is actually a 168 pounder, went up to 175 pounds. But he started off at 168. Nobody wanted to face him, so he jumped up to 175. I heard people saying that the 175 division is weak, and now all of a sudden the tune has changed. Canelo's too small for that division. It has nothing to do with that. Styles make fights. Alright? You guys need to get this stuff right. As a fighter, I support Canelo wanting to rematch with Bivol to change up some things, tweak some things, do things better. People are talking about Bivol, he would stop Canelo in a rematch. I don't see that happening because Canelo got too good a defense. He might lose more, or he might actually improve and actually do a little bit better. But I don't see Canelo knocking out Bivol. I don't see Bivol knocking out Canelo. But Bivol does throw some blistering respect to one more thing before I get out of here. And you guys can leave your comments if you want. With respect to everything I've said, if people can't verify and look at the receipts and how consistent I am with when I call fights, what I see in them, and when I'm talking about in fights, check my record, check my track record. You know what I'm saying? All them other guys who talking about Canelo shouldn't fight at 175, it's because they shocked, right? They predicted that Canelo would win the fight. Most of them, at least. Some of them thought he would win because of robbery, but nonetheless, they thought he would win. I personally thought he would lose. I thought Bivol would beat him. I don't know if Bivol would get the decision, but I knew he would beat him. I knew this from way, way back, and I'm explaining to people the style that Canelo has, but most people, you know, they don't know shit about boxing, so they may not follow what I'm saying, but the point is, people say Canelo's slow-footed. He's not slow-footed. He's keeping up with Bivol. People talk about the clinching by Bivol. That had nothing to do with it. In fact, Bivol clinched very little in the fight. That wasn't the problem. Bivol never really used his size like that. Bivol frustrated Canelo, so mentally Canelo was getting drained. He wasn't keeping his composure anymore. And then two, Bivol's footwork was just one step ahead of Canelo all the time. He was just one step ahead of Canelo, spinning out easily. Canelo couldn't cut off the ring. He couldn't really pin him down in a corner and really run his combinations like he wanted to. And this is what really happened. Was Canelo seriously hurt by that fight? Not really. He went to post-fight interview. As more as pride was hurt. Um, but, Bivol did his thing. Canelo has good defense. So I'm not worried about Canelo's defense. That's why I say with BDBF or Joe Smith Jr., I don't really care how hard they punch. Because it doesn't matter. Because he has defense. Canelo has defense to deal with that. And he stayed behind his defense and he keep his composure, pick his shots. He should have those fights in the bag. It's not just those guys can jab. You could have a good jab. You have to be able to jab and move. You have to be able to vary the timing, the speed, the power of your jab. And those guys don't have all that nuance. All right. So I don't see those guys being a problem for Canelo. I knew Bivol would be a problem, and that's why I predicted it. I don't see them other guys. I see Canelo beating those guys. 168 pounders, I see him beating Benavidez. I don't really see Benavidez don't bring nothing to the table that really would give Canelo some trouble. He's relentless, but Canelo's been dealing. He dealt with relentless guys. He dealt with Triple G. He dealt with Danny Jacobs, who was coming at him. And he used his defense for that. So it's not just being relentless. It's not just about coming forward. It's not about being able to take his punch. He can box. My thing is, when you make him move, you're making him move more than he really, has his tank for. Because he never built his tank like that. Even if you get him on the back foot, you gotta make sure he's not dictating. If he's setting traps for you and stuff, and you're walking into his traps, then he's dictating the fight. So the thing with Canelo is he can dictate a fight very quickly. And again, Canelo is a master at slipping jabs and getting past the jab. So you can't just come with a jab. You have to come with something that's unexpected. You have to come with something that's off rhythm. And you have to also have the footwork behind it so that you can get out. You enter and you exit. And that's what Bivol had. Bivol's a special fighter in that respect. Not every day they can do it. Even Kellen Plant, with all his skill and slickness, he got stopped. So Bivol had the whole thing, the full package. And he can also fight a little bit on the inside. And he's very effective when he throws his punches, they land. So, it's all of that. That's a special package. It's not like any 175 pounder will beat Canelo or, the top 175 pounder. No. Bivol beat Canelo. That was it. We're not going to go past that. So don't tell me see what I'm saying? What do the other guys bring to the table? Well, somebody, Joe Habib, was trying to blow up Joe Smith Jr. But the truth be told, Joe Smith Jr. ain't got shit for Canelo. He got nothing for Canelo. He's underrated and all of that, but you got to be exceptional at what you do to beat Canelo. Bivol exceptional at what he does when it comes to range control and stuff. What was Joe Smith Jr. exceptional at? All right. Out of BF is rough and rugged. He's rough and rugged. That's about it, though. That you could control that. You can deal with a rough and rugged guy. You can't deal with a guy whose jab keeps on cutting through your defense. You can't deal with a guy whose offense and his counterpunching ability keeps on catching you. That's why, since Floyd Mayweather, Bivol's the first guy after 10 years to beat Canelo Alvarez. It ain't easy to beat Canelo Alvarez. Okay? Don't let him fool you. Because it brings certain things to the table. And he was trying to disable Bivol's jabbing arm. But they had that under control, to control the swelling and stuff. But he was trying to disable it. He was trying to take away his weapon, his jab. Okay? And he couldn't get close enough to really do what he wanted to do. And when he did get close enough, Bivol shut down shop. And he was just watching the counter. So he closed up everything. He protected his whole entire body. He was catching shots on the sides. And then he was countering. Catching, counter. Okay? So, if anybody tells you 175, Canelo can't make 175, then he can't make 152. He can't make 154. He shouldn't have been fighting at 154 after that. He was supposed to go down in weight or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's stupid what they be saying. Alright? Skills pay the bills, and this was about skill. This was not about weight. They're weight classes for a reason. Not really. Not really. Not in this case. In this case, Bivol's a small, light heavyweight. Canelo is he showed he's a 168 pounder. stepping up into light heavyweight. He faced the smallest light heavyweight. But the smallest light heavyweight out there, believe it or not, got skills. This is what you guys ignore. If you're just looking at straight size and punching power, okay, yeah, so Bevo's not the biggest guy and he's not the one with the most punching power. That don't mean that some other 175 pounder is just going to beat up Canelo because he got more power and he got more size. That doesn't make no sense. Skills pay the bills. Ain't nobody like Bevo. Bevo would go in and face Bitterbiev and beat him. Or Joe Smith Jr. or the winner of both. And he'll beat both of those guys. Why? You already beat Joe Smith Jr. Why? Because it's not about this. So let's stop with he was too big for him. That's an inbuilt excuse. Because he made it 12 rounds. How did he make it 12 rounds? How he lift up Bevo? How at the end of the fight, he didn't look like he was, wear for tear. I'm breathing heavy. He wasn't breathing heavy at the end of the fight. So he can stay in there with a 175 pounder. He can hang in there, and he didn't get stopped or anything. He can fight at 175. He does belong in the division, but his problem is that he does not have a consistency in terms of moving his feet. And that's his only problem. He sorts that out, he will win more of those fights. That's it. Right? That's what he needs to work on. But if you keep on making excuses for the guy, if you keep on building in excuses for why he lost, you diminish Bevo's performance and you diminish the greatness of Bevo. And in addition to that, you don't let him work on shit that he's supposed to work on. He's supposed to realize what he's deficient in based on that fight with a guy who moves and work on it. So the next time he comes to the ring, he can cut the distance and he can cut off the ring if he needs to cut off the ring and deal with the dude like he's supposed to deal with him. Not let him off the hook and let him spin off to the circle of the ring, because he wasn't cutting off the ring good at all. And that's because he's not consistent with his foot movement, the quickness of his foot movement, the activity of his feet. B was a master at that. So this is what I wanted to say, because I was seeing a lot of people out here. I didn't get to respond on the Beeb's Ringside Reporter to the different people. I know they have different people on the thing. You want to be respectful, and you didn't really want to disrespect nobody. But I said I'm going to say this piece because it's boxing. This is not some fucking strongman contest or some tough man contest or some I'm going to knock out a bull or something contest. This is not what it is. It's called boxing. And Bivol at what he does is better than what Canelo did at what he does. Canelo need to close the distance to land those body shots. Bivol didn't give him that. He didn't give him body shots. He didn't give him nothing to land on nothing. That's why Bivol won. And it was resounding. It wasn't no 7-5 people. It was a whitewash. That's why they put it 7-5. They damped that down a lot. But then again, they probably was expecting Canelo to stop him, so they must be giving the rounds to Canelo because he's throwing those hard, sharp shots. Floyd Mayweather, he won money on Bivol. He picked Bivol to win. Why do you think Floyd Mayweather picked Bivol to win? Because he saw within Bivol what he does, and he saw the attributes and abilities Bivol had, that he do it in Bivol's kind of way, but nonetheless, it's the same attributes that Floyd had, which allowed him to beat Canelo Alvarez. People feel it's like by magic Canelo just stopped guys. No, he be working the body. He get his shots in early. Billy Joe Saunders, he was working the body from round one. With Caleb Plant, he was getting him, he was stiff arming him, and then hitting him with not stiff arming him, but he extend Caleb's jab. When Caleb jabbed to him, he extended the jab and he hit him underneath here in the liver. Keep on pounding that liver, right? And the point behind it is that Canelo, and it's nothing he's doing by chance. Even with Sergey Kovalev, he was landing nasty body shots, nasty headshots throughout the fight, because Kovalev was kind of weight drained. And Kovalev was coming up with almost the same repetitive jab, right? And so Canelo was catching the jab, he was hyperextending them, he was doing all kinds of things, right? It's not that Canelo can't deal with a jab that is thrown regularly at the same kind of time and pace, weight. He has problems with unpredictable jabs that come out of nowhere, and that's what Bivol had. And he changed it up. He changed up the angle. He changed up the speed. He changed up the rate. And he's using different kinds of jabs for different things. He probe him. He's probing him to try and set him up for something. He's baiting him with some other jabs. He was doing different things. You understand what I'm saying? And when I started breaking down boxing like that, a lot of guys who don't understand boxing, they start rah, 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 rah. All that rah, 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 you talking. I heard it on the panel by a guy who was supposed to be a coach, by the way. No disrespect to him, but he couldn't follow what I was saying at a certain point. You know what I mean? And they feel it's heady or something. I'm just talking boxing. I'm just talking boxing. That's all I'm doing. I'm talking boxing. But I started going into details, and all of a sudden, I lose some people. And I ain't no guru, man. I'm the least of people in boxing. But if you know you're boxing, and I'm more a fan than I am a boxer. Y'all know this, right? But I try my best to learn the sport and do the sport, and by doing the sport, that's where it makes sense what I'm saying. If you haven't done it, then it don't make no sense to you, and you just gonna say the same old bullshit narratives that they all putting out here. They will just bullshit people, a lot of bullshit. You know what I mean, coming out your mouth. But if you're somebody who understands the sport and you can see it from a boxer's perspective. So I was talking to a brother on Facebook. Actually, there's several guys I talked to, and several of them, they've been through multiple weight classes. They've got in the pros. They fought multiple weight classes. Some of them start off at welterweight and they go all the way up to heavyweight. Some of them start at lightweight and they go all the way up to super middleweight and stuff. Right? I spoke to several guys, pro boxers, okay records. And they would tell you about, every single weight class they've been in and how the experience of it. And one of the things you got to understand is, yeah, the guys hit harder and stuff, but you get to prepare for that. You get to spar guys who are that size. And if your coach don't feel comfortable with it, he won't have you fighting in that weight class. And I'm pretty sure Canelo spars a heavyweight in the name of Frank Sanchez, doesn't he? This is why Canelo could say, man, I would love to fight Alexander Usyk. Why not? Because he's getting that work. And good work. Don't get it twisted. He's a very skilled Cuban boxer. Frank Sanchez. He's on the rise. He just beat kid name. I forgot what the kid name is. Right? So, obviously, he has the confidence to fight in those higher weight classes. To fight at light heavyweight. And people saying, well, you didn't really have the, lightweight is too much for him. If lightweight and heavyweight is too much for him, why is he sparring Frank Sanchez? I'm not saying sparring they go all out, but I'm just saying he got used to the power. So it's not like Bivol hit him with something that, oh my God, Bivol didn't hurt. When did Bivol ever hurt Canelo in that fight? Was Canelo ever hurt in that fight? No, he wasn't. All right. So how can you tell me that 175 is not a division he can fight in? He made it 12 rounds. He was frustrated more than anything else and a little bit tired. Right? That's about it. And his ego was broken, but that's about it. He didn't got no black eye. He ain't got no busted lip. He got a few red dots on the top of his head, but he ain't got nothing. So what I'm trying to say to you guys is, Bivol didn't beat him with power. And Bivol told you that. He was going to beat him with skills. When Floyd beat Canelo, Floyd didn't hit Canelo with something that Canelo never felt before. Oh my God, the power of Floyd Mayweather. No. In fact, Canelo said Floyd's power it wasn't that big a deal. But yet Floyd backed him up. And yet Floyd was able to counter him. And yet Floyd was able to stand in the center of the ring at given times, unbox his ass, and outbox him. Why? Why? And that is where the work needs to begin with Canelo. And he needs another trainer aside from Eddie Reynoso. Eddie Reynoso did a great job, phenomenal job with Canelo. But guess what, Eddie Reynoso? Y'all need some more help from outside with this kid. To get him to stick and move and to get his cardio up to par where his foot speed is good, and he got to get those proper foot angles at that high speed as well. But you got to do it. You got to do it. This is what is necessary if you want to really be the best. And if you say you're really interested in that rematch, Eddie Reynoso, you should be the guy to say, you know what? This is as far as I could take you, Canelo. It's time for you to find somebody who can take you further. And Eddie Reynoso could still be his trainer, like Sheppo is his trainer. You don't have to leave people, Canelo. You don't have to leave your trainer. You don't have to leave your team. But you need an additional member to your team. Just like how Bevel had Joel Diaz as the head trainer in his team. You need somebody like that. You need an experienced veteran trainer who, I'm not saying Sheppo and Eddie Reynoso, they're fantastic, but you need an experienced veteran trainer who can give you an extra piece of information, an extra eye. This is what Oscar was telling you. Even if you don't leave Sheppo and Eddie and you get them a piece of the pie and they're getting paid from you and so on because you grew up since a pup, you got to move around and you got to get extra help. You're not going to be able to be successful just on that level that you're at. Now you got to change levels if you want to dominate 175. If you want to win that rematch with Bevel, that's what it takes. And Anthony Joshua, he's been trying to do that too. He's not going to forsake his coach. He's not going to forsake his trainer. But you need additional help to get you to where you need to be at. And it needs to be legitimate. You can't be cheating and stuff. So this is what I got to say for Canelo. The run with Eddie Reynoso and Sheppo is a great run. And kudos to them on the matchmaking and all of that stuff. But Eddie Reynoso still stay your manager and trainer, but you need additional help. That's all I'm saying. Because Canelo's slick and everything, and he's got good ability and everything, but there's certain things he does not do, and that's gonna work against him. It's just gonna work against you. So you might as well. And now everybody's seen you get outboxed again on the inside and on the outside by a master boxer who I don't think anybody thought that Bevel will ever get beat by anybody. Because I know Bevel's going to beat the winner of Bitter BF and Joe Smith Jr. I know it now without a doubt in my mind. I always knew that, but without a doubt in my mind now I know that. He's got everything it takes to win at 175 level and become undisputed. So I'm looking forward to Bevel. Lots of people didn't want to face Bevel. A lot of people are hesitant to face Bevel. And now we know why. Right? And kudos to Bevo on traveling across the seas and believing in his skills, believing in his ability, and speaking a bit of English. Right now Russia is at war with Ukraine. That's not cool at all. But I always like Bevo, and it's nice to see him out here doing his thing and getting some shine for it. And a lot of people not really like. I was listening to Coach Anthony. Great coach. But he didn't feel impressed about Bevo. And I'm like, how could you not be impressed by the guy, man? Look what he did. He walked Canelo back. He was landing his shots on Canelo. He was more accurate than Canelo in landing shots. He was keeping his defense tight. He was keeping it long when he could keep it long. When Canelo came in on the inside, people was expecting Canelo to knock him out, but he prepared for that, had defense for that. You know what I mean? You gotta give kudos where kudos is due, man. Bevo did it. He did a great job. Masterclass. Hardly got hit by Canelo. Hardly got touched. You know what I mean? And he put some damage on Canelo. And Bevo's not the heaviest light heavyweight. He punches. He got good pop. But I'm sure he don't hit as hard as Frank Sanchez. I don't think he hits as hard as Canelo's sparring partners who probably came in who was probably heavyweights. So just getting that good work. That good sparring work is one thing, but you have to find fighters that will push you to move around the ring as much as possible. You got to make them push you. And Canelo did look to me a lot more leaner, so you could see he was quicker. But I think, some people said he was trying to land a lot of power early, even though that's typical Canelo, though. He does try to shock you with his power early. But I think Bevo just kept him so busy, and so his mind had to think about different equations, what was coming at him, that I think it kind of tired him out a bit. But once again, I don't think that 175 is too big for him. I don't believe that for a second. People talking about Canelo's small. He's 5'7". No, he's not. He's 5'8.5", and he has a 70.5-inch reach. Okay. Jaguar Black, congrats on your picks. I thought it wasn't right that Canelo was A-side in that fight. He came out last. People was announced still undisputed instead of champ. Yeah, well, my thing is Bevo's now the A-side. So, my other thing is this. Bevo now earned his spot. You know what I'm saying? He's beaten the pound for pound #1 fighter in the world. Just like how Canelo beat the pound for pound #1 fighter in the world in Triple G, right? So, that's how boxing goes. Canelo had a great run as pound for pound #1 from 2019 till 2022. He ran for almost 3 years. He was pound for pound #1. That's the way how boxing works. Yes, he did earn his spot now. Yeah. Bevo. Bevo's not pound for pound #1. He just beat the pound for pound #1 fighter, which is big. Bevo doesn't look at Canelo like as if he's a 175 pounder fully, even though he says skills has paid the bills. So he's not getting carried away with that, which is good for him. Again, mentally, what he's doing is he's not rating this win so high because he's focused on Joe Smith Jr. and BWF winner. He want to focus on that. So, he's keeping his mind focused on whatever, because he hasn't accomplished it. He's not undisputed, and then after that, you have to defend your undisputed title. And Josh Taylor realized how hard that was against Jack Cottrell. He almost lost his title to Jack Cottrell, even though I don't think Matchroom would have allowed that to happen. Jack Cottrell looked like he had to knock his ass out because, quite frankly, Jack Cottrell outboxed his ass. He came back harder, but Cottrell was having an easy time with him. But it's what it is, and it was a robbery, but they don't care because Josh Taylor was the dude. You know what I'm saying? That should have been Jack Cottrell, though. But the thing about it is that you got to defend that title. So Bevo, he got still a road ahead of him that he has to cover. But Canelo, like I said before, he's exceptionally good. He's a great fighter, and those are the things he has to work on. With Bevo just has to keep sharpening up his tools, and no matter who Bevo faces, he needs to rise to the occasion. I know he's very motivated about this because people were ruling him out, they were treating him away, the crowds were booing him. He used that as incentive, and he was sharp as hell in that fight. I seen the nerves of Bevo before the bell rung. I wonder what gave him the confidence to say I could do this. No, he always had the confidence. I didn't see any nerves. I saw from because he knew this was a guy, his style, he could beat that style. Bevo had fought much tougher opposition than him. Remember, he fought not in terms of skill, but in terms of size. Bevo fights bigger guys than him. He made Joe Smith Jr. look like a clown. He gave Joe Smith Jr. I think his second loss of his career. I think the first loss of his career was early in his career. John Pascal's a very tricky guy, and Bevo knew that, and he didn't walk into none of John Pascal's traps, and he was able to outbox John Pascal. He stopped Sullivan Barrera, stopped him. Sullivan Barrera had never been stopped before that, and he stopped him. So, and these are guys much bigger than Bevo. We're talking guys 6'1", 6'2", longer reaches than Bevo. And he's still landing his jab, and he's still doing what he do. So this guy is exceptionally good at what he does. And I don't see any 175-pounder beating him, but hey, we're going to see. We want to see the matchup, and then we will know. So when we talk about Dimitri Bivol, that's why Andrew Ward was like, Canelo fighting Bivol? Andrew Ward was like, what? Where did Canelo get that confidence to fight Bivol? He was watching it like, what? Because Bivol's exceptionally good. And hopefully he'll get the resume to become an all-time great. And then y'all will see. He might go down in history as one of those undefeated fighters. Bivol. He might go down in history as that. He might clean out the light heavyweight division. Might move up to cruiserweight. Who knows? But Bivol he's small. He's really a 168 pounder. Like Andre Ward, he was really a 168 pounder. He blew up to 175 to fight 175 pounders because nobody in 168 wanted nothing to do with him. They didn't want to smoke. He's that good. And so people don't know that. People don't know that, you know. And it's cool. I mean, he's now known in the Western world a little bit more. He a bad boy. Bevo's a bad boy. Been so for the longest while. That's why Mayweather put his money on Bivol. He didn't pick Canelo. And my point being that you have to know styles make fights. You know, it's like Shakur versus Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez got his ass handed to him by Shakur. Does that mean Oscar Valdez does not belong in super featherweight? Because remember, he knocked out Miguel Berchelt, just like how Canelo knocked out Sergey Kovalev. You remember that? So everybody's going in there saying Canelo got life-changing power. He gonna knock out Bivol. So because he didn't knock out Bivol, he doesn't belong at 175. He went the distance with Bivol, and Bivol outclassed him. He doesn't belong at 175. This is what you're saying now? All of a sudden, Joe Smith Jr. and Otto Bitabir, they'll kill him. Come on, man. Oscar Valdez don't belong at 130 because Shakur Stevenson beat him so easy? No. Oscar Valdez probably beat the rest of 130 pounders that are there. Because he beat Miguel Berchelt, the guy. Right? He probably would. But he just won't beat Shakur Stevenson. Yeah? You got it? Same thing with Bivol. It's a tough road. I mean, the fact that Canelo even wants to take that fight again, I give him kudos for that. Even saying that at the end of the fight, no excuses. He just said, "I'm gonna take it. I want this fight." All right. He said, "I want this fight. I want a rematch." It's kudos to him. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you know, don't tell me shit like Canelo don't belong at 175. Come on, man. Y'all use your brains. Use your brains. The man fought at 175 before against Sergey Kovalev. And on top of that, he didn't get knocked out by Bivol. And Bivol can't knock him out. And I'm going to tell you right now, Bivol will never knock out Canelo Alvarez. They could fight 100 million times. He's never going to knock him out. Why? 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 Say it with me. Canelo has defense. He's got defense. You got to land a combination of shots on Canelo. All Bivol been landing is one shot at a time. It don't matter how many combinations Bivol throw. He only land one shot. And Bivol is notoriously accurate. Bivol actually got reasonably good reflexes, and he's quick, and he's in and out. And he could only land one shot at a time with Canelo. Why? Because Canelo has defense. It just so happened Bivol has defense. Bivol has defense as well. He's just a better fighter than Canelo. Just admit it and end the story. This has nothing to do with weight. At least Bivol didn't think so. He thought it was skills. Sam Harris says, Bivol himself said, the man too small. Kovalev incoming like Bivol is. Styles that definitely make fights. Those were two different fights. And that's my... No, actually it wasn't. It wasn't two different fights. If you was paying attention, Sam Harris. It wasn't two different fights. If you was paying attention, Sergey Kovalev was actually ahead on the cards for a lot of people when he was facing Canelo. It just so happened he gassed out because he was tired. And Canelo stopped his ass. In the round 10, Kovalev came on strong against Canelo because he knew he was about to gas out. Like Kovalev always gas out at a certain point in the fight. And he gassed out. It wasn't that Kovalev was old, my friend. If you know boxing, you would know you don't just come off a hard, difficult fight where you need to repair and mend your body and you jump into another difficult fight. Ask Deontay Wilder. Right? He went from the first fight into the Ortiz fight into the Tyson Fury fight, the second one. Too many fights back to back, too so close. You got to have a hard fight, an easy fight. Hard fight, that's why we say stay busy. You want to stay sharp, but you don't want too hard, tough fights back to back. You're going to destroy yourself. The body get broke down. You got to heal. Yeah? So he ain't old. Silver Corpo's about to fight. I think this coming weekend he's about to fight Pulev's brother, Kubrat Pulev's brother, at cruiserweight, and he's about to do good. He about to stop his ass, I believe. Jaguar Black says I came in late, so maybe you probably said it. But what's next for Canelo? I said that if he wants to do the rematch, challenge himself like how Anthony Joshua's challenging himself, like how I see a lot of guys wanting immediate rematches, go for it. It's a big uphill battle, but he's got to work on his foot activity. Stick and move, jab and move, all that shit. He got to work on his feet. His feet don't be active enough in all these other fights. He's been, getting by with minimal footwork and minimal movement of his feet. He's been getting by with that. He has to get back to the point where he's moving his feet a lot. This is why I thought that Bivol would beat him. It's his problem. His major problem. He has a lot of skill. He has a lot of ability. He's a lot of things. But he's a bit too stationary. He's a bit too limited in how much he can move. And that is what works against him. So to get into range, you need to have active feet so you can bob and weave, slip and dip, slide. If you need to close the distance, you really could do it. You put your hands up and really go to a guy. But if you don't have that foot cardio, you can't really do that. You have to walk him down. You have to walk him down at a measured pace because you can get tired. You understand? But when you got active feet, the feet are quick enough and your body's quick enough and the cardio is quick enough, you can close that distance much better because you're more athletic and you can really work the game. Really work the game. And that's what's missing from him. Otherwise, man, Bivol would have, because Bivol's good in certain areas, but I think Canelo's better than him in certain things. He's much more nuanced. But he don't have the feet to really exploit to the max what he can do. So that's why I try to explain it. And the thing is, he needs a good trainer to be able to get him that transition in that short space of time. Eddie Reynoso doesn't know how to do that. So that's what I'm trying to say. If you look at if you look at Mayweather versus Diego Corrales, active feet, in and out, in and out, in and out. If you look at Mayweather even versus Ab Judah, even though he was fighting flat-footed, the agility and the explosiveness and the quickness and the bobbing and the weaving and all of that stuff to close the distance on him is beautiful. And the snapbacks but the feet, the quickness, the quickness of the feet. You could tell this dude, he could jab 100 rounds just jabbing, sticking and moving because his feet's light and he's quick. Canelo, you could tell he gets tired when he moves his feet too much. He's quick and all of that, but he really prefer to just be stepping in and using the upper body movement and stepping in and using the upper body movement where you may need to have quick feet. Slip and slide inside, bob and weave, and pivot off to the right, pivot off to the left. You need that those quick feet, all 12 rounds. He don't have it. So that's where he can't keep up with a guy that's moving like that. You see? He got to cut off the ring, but you need to keep up sometimes with those guys. You got to get under the grill. You got to stifle them. You have to be able to put pressure on them in different ways. You want to be up in their face 1 minute. Miguel Cotto did it very well with Floyd, but it was semi-flat-footed, but still nonetheless. But you want to be able to bait them into you. You want the bait to be real. What I mean by that is you could get on them, hurt them a little bit, and then step back, and now let them come to you. Canelo, what he does when he try to get people to come to him, he stay on the ropes like this and he lean back, and he watching you through the gloves. That's not enough. Because you ain't moving. You gotta get him. You gotta get him moving. You gotta get him going around the ring. You gotta step around the ring, around the ropes. You gotta step around the ring so you can set the traps. You see, so you can walk him into something. See, he have to lean on the ropes. He can't be moving his feet. He can't be moving all around the ring. He don't do that, and that's his problem. You get what I'm saying? That's where his limitation is. It was the same problem James Toney had. He's better than James Toney in terms of his footwork, but nonetheless, that's the problem. And that's where he'll lose his fights. Jaguar Black says, oh, here. Let me go back to Sav Harris. Beaver said it himself. My God, Canelo not big enough for that level of skill at 175. I like how you said that. He's not big enough for that level of skill. Yeah, I understand what you mean by levels. Yeah, Bevo's a different, yeah, for sure. He's a different level altogether. And then he's going to use his size. He's going to use whatever he has to his advantage. But he didn't really use his size to his advantage. What I mean by that is he uses reach, right? But then Bevo do regardless. He going to step in. Even if Canelo had longer arms, it wouldn't change the fight. I think what he didn't really use his size, in my opinion, because Bevo, if he used his size, if he had weighed down himself on him, walk him to the ropes, bully him. But Canelo tried to use his size and lift up Bevo off the ground. Canelo was using his size. Canelo was the tank, Bevo was boxing him. It's kind of like when people say, Floyd used his size against Marquez. No, fucker. Hell no. He didn't use his size against Marquez. He was boxing Marquez. If he used his size against Marquez, I mean, he's going to use his weight and everything in a clinch. He's going to rough him up. He's going to headlock him. He's going to keep him down low. Mayweather used his size against Pacquiao. Now, he did use his size against Pacquiao. He clinch him. He rough him up a little bit. He hold him in the clinch. He punch him in the clinch. That kind of stuff. Push his head down, right? That's using your size, your physical size. You understand? A lot of people don't understand boxing, so Bevo used his size. Size did matter. Size didn't matter in that fight because, once again, I know y'all gonna say, well, the punching power and blah blah blah. No, because if the punching power was an issue, Canelo would have been damaged. You see no signs of this. You got a little red spots up on top of here, but that's about it. He ain't got no busted eye like how Erislandy Lara blackened his eye. Y'all forget about that? Was Erislandy Lara too big for him? No, he wasn't. Okay. So, no, size wasn't the issue here. It was skills. And Bevo was just too skilled for him. Because Bevo could move. And Canelo can move like that for 12 rounds. That's it. We can't talk about size here. Because Bevo never used his size. Did Canelo respect Bevo's power? Of course. Bevo had a good right hand. But then again, at any weight class where a guy had a good right hand, Caleb Plant didn't have a good right hand. We all agree on this. He had a good jab, though, and Canelo had to respect that jab. Caleb Plant was landing that jab. And the reason why I said Caleb Plant have a good jab versus Triple G, who I didn't think had a good jab, is because Triple G, he would use the probing jab. That was the thing he was using. But he didn't really hit Canelo with a big jab and really snap his head back. I never really saw that. I saw it once or twice in the first fight, but he wasn't really snapping Canelo's head back with a jab. Bevo was doing it. He was snapping his head back with a jab, right? Platt was doing it. He was snapping Canelo's head back with a jab. Canelo is good at disabling jabs. Canelo is very good at disabling jabs. But a master, Mayweather, and now Bevo has shown you that you don't just throw a jab. That's what I'm trying to explain to people over and over again. It's jabbing and pivoted. If you notice, Bevo jabs, he either steps in with the jab or he jab and pivot off to one side. You got to jab and pivot, jab and move, stick and move, stick and move. Not stick, then move, stick and move. See, the combination is what gave Canelo problems. And not to mention, he was varying the pace of the jab, he's varying the angle of the jab, he's varying the type of jab, he's varying the power on the jab, he's varying the timing of the jab. That's different. You know what I mean? But anyway, let me see what you say. I agree what you need. Yeah, shout out to Jaguar Black. People said it. Okay. I agree. Canelo's feet were too heavy. Nah, his feet weren't so heavy. He looked like he was in the mud last night. He was confused. He was confused how he couldn't get to this guy. He was confused. Jaguar Black, he's a pressure fighter, so he used his feet more by inching in to throw instead of just simply Having active feet. Yeah, active feet, man. Active feet. I mean, inching in is cool too. Yes, that's when you talk about with inching in, that's called precise footwork. Where he's inching in and he's swiveling and he's keeping the guard right here so he can hit the guard, catching the punch and stuff like that. That's precise footwork. That's right, inching in. That's correct. He was inching in more than yeah, active feet. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I truly feel he can beat Bivol in a rematch, but that's if he does what you just said. Bivol will be the same. Yeah, Bivol will be the same, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Bivol will be the same, but the thing about it is, Canelo, he need a good trainer to help him with that movement. He needs more that. That's a lot of work. I mean that takes several fights to happen. So if you're gonna fast track that, he had to start today, like the day after the fight, instead of going and start back training, go back in the gym and start working one time, like Anthony Joshua did. Go straight back. That's motivation to conquer something, and just go back in the gym and start working your ass off. And try and find a trainer. Go through Eddie Reynoso so that Eddie Reynoso agrees with you, and find a trainer that can help you with your active feet and the proper approach you need to have so that you can deal with slicksters. Sav Harris says Canelo slowly waits towards his man and chops. He needs to make more sudden movements if he's going to be shuffling. Right. Right. Yeah, he tried to trick you. He tried to be closer to you than you think. And then he comes down with his, like you said, he comes through and he starts throwing his combos when he gets close enough to you. He takes a little while to close the distance as well. And he looks for opportunities to counter. More sudden movements if he's going to be shuffling. I agree. Sav says, I agree 100%. Jaguar said that. He said, word. I thought him just leaning on the ropes was dangerous against Bieber because Bieber's a good straight right hand. He has a good straight hand. Yeah, but Canelo's a tricky dude, man. He has that roving guard shit that goes on. You swear that James Kirkland was going to knock him out. Nope. Canelo, he's good at baiting you. He's good. No, don't get me wrong. Canelo's good. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. It's just his feet. His size was advantageous because Canelo couldn't budge him. Some of it was mental. Canelo saw what he saw. No, I don't think so. I don't believe that. Okay, I'm gonna put it to you this way. Do you think that Canelo could beat Demetrius Andrade at 168? Do you think that he could beat Jamel Charlo at 168? Because those fighters, Andre got more wrinkles than Bivol. He got more wrinkles than Bivol. He a much more complex fighter than Bivol. And I'm never going to pick against Demetrius Andrade against Canelo. I got Demetrius Andrade all day beating Canelo. All day. Canelo knows that. And for the very same reason I just told you. For this very mobile fighter. Caleb Plant made it to the 11th round. According to BT Sports, he was ahead on the cards. The judges, we can't count on the judges. You know that. So, okay? So what I'm trying to say is, even Caleb Plant, with his limited experience in boxing, was on the verge of beating Canelo. He had one more round after the 11th round. He had one more round, and he might have unofficially beaten Canelo. He was not going to beat Canelo on the judges' scorecards. Even Bivol, I'm surprised Bivol even beat Canelo because the judges had the first 4 rounds for Canelo. Like how? Come on, man. Hell no. Right? So it's still extraordinarily difficult to beat Canelo on the cards. It just so happened Bivol whitewashed his ass. But if it wasn't for that, Bivol would have lost. Jaguar Black says, Canelo is best at disabling jabs. That motherfucker's sick. I know. I agree with you. But if you don't know what you're doing when you're throwing a jab, if you think it's just throwing a jab, he'll beat you. Even Gennady Golovkin, he was slipping and riding and countering, Golovkin's jab in the first fight and the second fight. And he was walking Golovkin down in the second fight. That's some crazy shit, man. Canelo's sick. And he doesn't stop being sick. I'm just saying what he needs to work on, in my opinion. Sav Harris says those shots Canelo was putting on Bivol would make other guys rock on their heels. Bivol was right there, though. And his stone face was discouraging. Again, he wasn't landing nothing on Bivol. Bivol was using his guard. Oh, man. How do I explain this to you guys? Defense is something that allows you, and of course you prepare with defense. And of course Bivol has dealt with bigger guys. He's not just sparred bigger guys. He's had bigger guys hit him. It's not, Bivol and Canelo, to me, are the same size. They're the same size. They're 168 pounders. Canelo's natural weight is 168. He's not a 154 pounder, and he can't make 154 right now. He can't make 160. He's a 168 pounder. Bivol is the same thing. He's a little bit blown up, right, because he's been at 175 for longer. But that's it. Bivol's not bigger or stronger than Canelo, in my opinion. Clearly, he's not stronger than Canelo. Canelo picked him up and just had him up in the air. I think of Cotto versus Floyd. I would Cotto pick up Floyd and slammed him, all right? Canelo's strong as a fucking ox, okay? And even Bivol said, when Canelo punched him, that's why he had the mark on his hands, he said he punched with plenty power. He got power. But defense allows for that to be deflected. Now, even when he was punching on Bivol's arm, Joel Diaz had to put ice pack on his arm to make sure his arm didn't swell out, okay? So Canelo was ripping punches, okay? So when people say, oh, Canelo, he didn't hurt Bivol, he can't hurt Joseph, that motherfucker can punch, okay? I saw him knock Sergey Kovalev flat out, okay? So he can punch, okay? The thing is, Bivol had defense. That's it. Bivol can punch, but Canelo has defense. That's why neither of them knocked each other out, okay? Caleb Plant is a strong motherfucker. But Caleb Plant did not know what to do once he got knocked down. That's it. Boxing is a thing of inches. Boxing is a thing where you gotta know the fine details. And he was not prepared for being knocked down. So when Caleb Plant got knocked down, what did he do? He popped back up like a lollipop. He popped back up like this. And then he's drifting all around the ring. Because guess what? Guess what? When you change levels like that, I don't know, you guys maybe never experienced this, but when you change levels, you just pop up like this, right? Zab Judah did it against Costa Zoo, and it cost him the fight, right? When you pop up like this, you didn't check to see, you didn't take a knee like this and check your bearings to see and prop yourself up. You know, the referee's counting, right? Because this is what happens, and this is what you need to be prepared for. You take a knee, all right? Because Caleb Plant, he didn't get knocked completely down. He was actually propping himself up like this. He was like if he's doing a push-up. And then he just stood right up like this. Right? You don't do that. You come from here, you take your time, you take a knee, you check to see if you're spinning, and then on the count of 9, you pop up like this. Then the referee is going to tell you to go over there. So you start jogging over here, and then they're going to tell you to go over there, and you're going to jog over here. Then they're going to grab your hands, and then say you're ready. That's enough time to catch yourself. Because it's all about time. But he didn't have the experience to do that. Kendall Holt knows about that. Timothy Bradley knows about that. When the Ruslan Provatnikov fight, remember that? Timothy Bradley took a knee. Timothy Bradley took a knee against Kendall Holt. And when he reached 8, he got back up. He got knocked off his feet with a left hook from Kendall Holt. I don't know if you guys even know the fights that I'm talking about, but whatever. Okay? You get seriously hurt in a fight, you're not trying to jump back up from that like inexperienced Zab Judah did with Costa Zoo. No. Because when you pop back up and you pop back up too soon, everything spins. It's not a Caleb Plant was badly hurt like that. He was spinning still. The whole world was spinning this way. Okay? It's doing that. Okay? That's all. That's why it didn't take much for Canelo to knock him down again. He blocked the punch and he still got knocked down because he's still spinning. Another thing, when you're hurt like that, you got to clinch. Your clinch game need to be on. Every boxer needs to know a little bit about wrestling. You need to know how to clinch. You lock up that dude. I don't care what the ref do. You hold on for dear life. Mosley versus Mayweather. Mayweather didn't even wait to fall down on the ground. He was clinching coming down. Mosley hit him. Boom! That's something that busts a watermelon. It'll punch a hole through a wall. He got hit with that. Okay? He got hit like if a mule kicked you in your face. Okay? It breaks bone structures and shit. But you know, boxers, they got their bone density is pretty strong, right? Thick. So he gets caught with that shot. He doesn't wait to fall down on the ground. Hell no, he clinching already. Going down, he's clinching Mosley. For dear life. This is what you got to do to recoup. That's the only way you're going to recoup. You got to have a clinch game. So this is what I'm trying to explain to people. You got to be prepared for every single situation in boxing. When we say every single situation, we mean every single situation. Because guess what? In boxing, anything could happen. Anything could happen. So these guys, you've seen Bivol, you've seen Canelo, and you've seen them go and they go 12 rounds. Dude, the amount of knowledge these guys have, the skill set that they have, the ability not to make a mistake and make it right every single time because they practice so much repetition is astonishing. Right? And this is what the casual fan just doesn't get. Canelo be practicing them moves every single day. In different training regimens. He's doing it every single day. This is not something that just I could just pick up and just go. No, I would make mistakes and I would get flatlined. He's not like you. Canelo's not like you. Bivol's not like you. Bivol's not like me. Canelo's not like me. Okay? They're not. Them guys, the margin of error is small, but they don't make those margins of errors. It's non-existent with these dudes. That's why they last so long. Caleb Plant, he made a mistake. An experience, he made that mistake, and it cost him the fight. Sab Judah made the same mistake, cost him the fight against Costa. You understand? But it's very rare you will see a modern-day elite fighter of their caliber make those kinds of mistakes. You understand? The only other guy I think that made a mistake was Tony Harris when he was hooking with a hooker in Jamel Charlo. He made the mistake. And it cost him the fight. You understand what I'm saying? You got to call it with a full-blooded shot. And it cost him the fight. He was doing really well. You know, he did get dropped early in the fight. He was doing very well on the inside. And he made that big mistake. Right? So, my point being that, you know, these guys, they don't make those kinds of mistakes. You know? I'm telling you, man, these guys are on another level to the normal, ordinary person. What I mean by that is, you know, in life, we make mistakes, we fall, we falter. These dudes make their mistakes in the gym. That's it. When they get out there, they not making no damn mistake. You know what I mean? Championship Boxing says Bivol definitely dominated. Dominated. 10-2, 9-3. I think most people have it 9-3 or 10-2. Joe Louis was a master of effectively shuffling your feet to get in range. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shuffle, slip, slide, all that. Joe Louis. Man could do everything, but he was I don't want to go into it. So I don't want to say nothing negative about Joe. He was a great fighter. Canelo's stamina showed up again in this fight. Yes, after a long time, huh? That's because he had to move his feet a lot more. He wasn't dictating. Yes, he had issues. Yes, sir. Bivol's defense was very solid. Yes, sir. I think he can, but it's a matter of him executing the right fights. I've seen every style, beat every style. You've actually fought Sab Harris? Good stuff. Championship Boxing Channel says I had Caleb Plant winning also. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Canelo can be outboxed by a master boxer. And Caleb's slick, man. He's slick. He need to work on his right hand, but he's slick. And he got a couple of things he got to work on. I think he could still beat David Benavidez right now. If Caleb Plant faced David Benavidez, he would still beat him. I thought Canelo was going to get a gift for sure last night, at least until the ninth or so. when the, when Andre just started putting it on him, when Bebo started putting it on him. The Rebel method says Canelo's always had a problem admiring his work, which was on full display. I don't think he admires his work though. I think it's just he can't move like how them other guys move for a very long period of time. He could do it for short little spurts. That's why Canelo's kind of staccato in his movements, staccato in his offense, and so on. The shots are landing on the guard. They typically move guys backwards. He did move Bebo backwards once or twice, but again, Bebo moves with the shot as well, and Bebo pivots with the shot. Sometimes Canelo's not even catching him. He's not even catching him flush on the forearm because Bebo's moving this way, or Bebo's pivoting out the way or something. Or he's counterpunching him. He's catching the counter. So Canelo's he's countering the counter because Bebo was countering the counters of Canelo and making Canelo a little bit gun shy as well. I hear you, Sav, and agree. Yeah, people have no idea what it takes to maintain a full fight strategy for 12 rounds. Yeah, it's not easy. I like watching his work sentiment. He's definitely in love with his work. I believe that at his age, he shouldn't be moving up and down in weight. Added with he's already had so many fights, it shows that oh, fuck, what just happened? Oh, no, don't do that. Oh, my God. I accidentally hit that Jaguar Black. Don't be offended, please. I believe that at his age, he shouldn't be moving up and down in weight. Added with he already has so many fights, it shows that he don't move like he used to. No, it's not that. Like I said before, that has nothing. Canelo's always been that way. He always fights that way. He's always been that way. Dimitri Bivol, he dictated the fight. That's what happened. You understand what I'm saying? I got you though, Jaguar Black. I got you. Now, Canelo has been 17 years in boxing, so he is, like I try to explain to people, he's coming to the end of his prime anyway. And he did have a knee injury, which is another reason why he doesn't move that much. But I think he's recovered from the knee injury. He was using precise footwork to walk guys down, bigger guys than himself. But in this case, you can't do that. And I'm trying to explain to people, you can't do that. What we call inching in on your opponent. That's what you guys call it. It was a lot more to that than that. He's cutting certain angles, but nonetheless. Canelo, you can't do that with Bivol because Bivol respect distance. If Canelo take 2 steps towards Bivol, Bivol take 2 steps back at an angle. You know what I'm saying? So you can't really inch in on Bivol like that. You can't get Bivol's back to stay against the ropes while you wail away at him. You know, and that's the stuff that Bivol, you see, because Canelo could do that all well off the ropes, actually better than Bivol, but nonetheless, he got tagged a couple times. But Bivol didn't catch him with a whole set of shots either. Bivol was throwing a lot more combinations. Canelo was deflecting a lot of the combinations. He got caught with 1 or 2, like maybe a lead right through the guard or a jab through the guard. Particularly the jabs, I think Bivol was landing more than anything else. When Bivol was dictating the fight, he even pushed Canelo back. He had him on the ropes. He was wailing away at him at a certain point in time. Canelo was riding a lot of those shots, though. Riding a lot of those shots off the ropes. But, you know, Canelo's a very good fighter. Don't get me wrong. Just that Bivol was better. The better man on the night. And, you know, Canelo has to work on certain things. He has to work on certain things. It's about time. You should have been working on this thing, as like I said before, since the Erislandy Lara fight. You shouldn't have been saying he was running and I don't want to give him a rematch. You should have rematched Erislandy Lara immediately. You say like, what? Oh, they thought he won? Oh, hell no. I thought I won. Okay, let's run it back. That's what he should have done. And then he should have worked on foot cardio like a mother and dominate Erislandy Lara. But instead, he made excuses. Everybody made excuses for him. And they moved on. They let the show move on. You know what I'm saying? He finally started fighting off the back foot. Canelo used to fight off the back foot when he was younger. He used to fight off the back foot. Okay? He fought off the back foot against Triple G the first fight. Everybody was saying he lost the fight and stuff because he fight off the back foot. The thing about it is though that if y'all was paying attention, y'all would have realized that he was not only fighting off the back foot, but he was using the upper body movement, slipping, sliding. You know, Canelo wasn't landing nothing. The most he was landing was probing jabs. He did land here or there. I remember the ninth round. He really had a resoundingly good ninth round. But to say he was beating up Canelo didn't have no scratch on his face at the end of the fight. Canelo face looked peppered. You know what I mean? So, I mean, Canelo, 175, I don't have no problem with Canelo going up to 175. He could go up to cruiserweight. Fuck, man. He could go heavyweight if he want. Bridgerweight, heavyweight. I don't care. Because he has a defense to handle that situation. So I'm not worried about that. And he has guys he can spar who are heavyweights or cruiserweights or whatever. So I don't really see a problem with Canelo going up in weight classes. My thing has always been he needs to be able to win every single fight. I can't guarantee he's going to win every single fight against every single fighter. I can't guarantee you that. Defensively, I'm not worried about Canelo defensively. Not worried about him. Offensively, I am somewhat worried about him because he doesn't have that movement that he needs to have consistently for 12 rounds. That's my problem. But great fighters, great fights. I'm what you need. You guys check out my channel. It's cool. Jaguar Black says styles make fights. I believe Canelo 4 years ago can defeat Charlo, but not this Canelo. I said Canelo would beat Charlo because he's great at slipping jabs. Now I say Charlo. Again, Charlo comes with a nice strong jab. He's explosive. He's quick. You know, he changes directions. He pivots very well. He's even improved in his inside fighting game. You know, it comes with that little Mayweather-like hook on the inside and stuff. He's a scientist himself. That would be a great fight. That would be an explosive, great fight. I don't know if Canelo has the confidence to face a Jamal Charlo. I don't know if he has the confidence to face a Demetrius Andrade. He said Demetrius Andrade is a horrible fighter, which is not true at all. It sounds like he just don't want no fight with Demetrius Andrade, period. He don't want nothing to do with him. And apparently he don't want nothing to do with Jamal Charlo. And you know, as you said, I've always thought Canelo would beat Jamal Charlo. You know what I mean? I always thought he would beat David Benavidez. But apparently he don't have the confidence to believe that. Sarah says, is BVEV too dangerous for Bitterbiev? Bitterbiev too dangerous for Canelo? I don't see Canelo taking that fight. Bitterbiev or BVEV? Who's BVEV? I say Benavidez would actually KO him. Nah, hell no. Benavidez don't do shit to Canelo. Benavidez get hit by guys who they're not even top 10 ranked super middleweights. And he be hit by those guys. Canelo, that's it. I don't mean to disrespect David. David, you a good guy. You got a decent jab. You work behind your jab. You try to keep distance, try to keep range. But David would be food for Canelo, man. That's food. That's food. You gotta learn to do a hell of a lot more. You know, flat-footed too. He just walk in flat-footed. Oh fuck no. He'd get tagged up on every single angle. Canelo looked tremendous against him. Be an exciting fight. Because David could take a punch. But that would be everybody would enjoy that fight because it'd be fan friendly. You know, Canelo, I don't know if Canelo could stop him. I don't know if Canelo would stop him. But Canelo would beat the shit out of him. No disrespect to David Benavidez. I like David Benavidez. I like that he liked the smoke. He would take any kind of smoke. But he's still growing as a fighter. He's 25 years old, man. He's still young. I don't mind seeing it, though. Canelo versus David Benavidez. That definitely boosts Canelo's confidence. If Canelo actually believes he can beat David Benavidez. If he doesn't believe he can beat David, then why the hell are we even talking about this? You know, I don't think he has the confidence. I don't know if he has the confidence like that to face those kinds of fighters. And again, it may be because his trainer doesn't have the confidence to have a game plan to beat those guys. It could be that, and then which means he needs to be with a trainer who knows exactly. Like if Bivol has a trainer, you can see that Beaver's trainer is dope. Canelo needs a trainer like that because if you have reservations, if you think it's a difficult fight facing David Benavidez because he's so big, then why the hell did you even fight Dimitri Bivol? Dimitri Bivol's bigger than David Benavidez in some respects, or nah, he's about the same size maybe. Not as big as David Benavidez is big. Okay, he could be a cruiserweight if you wanted. But at the end of the day, he's big, but he don't have the skills that Canelo have at all. Like he's not in the same vicinity level wise. Okay, he doesn't have the defense that Canelo has. He doesn't have the counters that Canelo have. He have a good jab. You know, he kind of picks off shots when he's on the defense on the back foot, but he don't really fight off the back foot. He don't really stick and move. He don't really stick and jab. He's not the quickest foot guy in the world. Canelo's way quicker than him. That would be an assassination, quite frankly. But everybody want to see David Benavidez. They think he's the biggest threat to Canelo, so why not have it? I wouldn't complain. I just think he'd get tagged up bad. Canelo would smash him. You know what I mean? He might not get knocked out, but he sure as hell. And he's got quick hands. David Benavidez got quick hands. They don't have quick feet. Canelo just pivot around him. Again, footwork. You know, your foundation is your feet. You gotta get your feet right. And Benavidez don't have the quickest feet in the world. He just don't have it. I can't wait for your breakdown of Spence Crawford. You and Boxing James are the best at breakdowns. Boxing James is he's sick. He's sick. But yeah, I mean, you're talking hard fights. You're talking about guys who can move. So you're looking at guys like that's why I think Caleb Plant would actually beat David Benavidez because he can move. You know, even if David Benavidez knock his ass down, he's learned from the Canelo fight not to do stupid shit. So he would get back up, he'd get his composure, and he would get in the ring and try to clinch him or close the distance on him, get real nice and tight to smother his punches, and then he kept his composure back and box his ass off. Because I think Caleb will outbox Benavidez. But Benavidez wanted to smoke, and he will get better. Benavidez is improving daily, so he will get better, you know. Jamal Charlo, Canelo might beat Jamal Charlo. He might not. Jamal had to come up in weight and all that. But he's not beating Demetrius Andrade. I think Demetrius Andrade beats him. After this Bivol fight, oh, fuck yeah. Demetrius Andrade watching the Canelo like food. Please come down to 168. Please give me the fight. He's not going to get it, though. He would love that. Demetrius Andrade would love a fight with Canelo because he knows he'll be a superstar after that, you know. Canelo's a hell of a fighter, though. Don't get it twisted. But Andrade is just not the style for Canelo. That's a bad matchup. It's a bad matchup. If Canelo want to win a fight, it's a bad matchup. You know. I got Plant in 12 if they fight because Plant isn't going to stand there and get hit. No, he's going to pivot around. He's going to pivot around Benavidez. He's going to pivot around Benavidez. The only thing is, you know, if he gets caught right, he's going to go down. Benavidez can put pressure on him and get him in a corner, but Plant can roll punches and all kinds of shit. So Benavidez had to come with a leaping left hook like what Canelo did, try and stun him. And since Plant got dropped and stopped, like if Benavidez has a fight with Plant, let's say Plant gets a stay busy right here, and the next fight's with Benavidez. Benavidez, he could have a chance of stopping him, but Caleb is a good, very slick, very good boxer, man. He need to keep his composure though. He need to be calmer. He a little burnout energy, a little too much, but he's good. He's good. He's slick. He's really good, slick. Yes, he'll get caught, and he'll be on his bike, but he still wins. Yeah, man. Caleb's a good fighter, man. He's a good fighter. One of my favorite fighters, actually. He's still one of my favorite fighters. That's the thing with a lot of people. People feel losing in boxing is like a death sentence or something. It's not. You don't want to lose. Oh, hell no. You didn't go in a fight to lose. Oh, I'll just lose. It doesn't matter. No. You go into a fight to win. But having said that and the hunger to win, sometimes you lose. And Canelo lost. But he's got that hunger to win. I could see he wants that rematch. And I hope he works triply hard. But you got to bring in some expertise, bro. Whether it's Mayweather Senior, somebody, some skilled slick back fighter knows how to do the footwork drills. You need to run footwork drills. You know, Coach Eric Bradley, the fight doctor from Master Boxing, he would run. Canelo would have to do so many different footwork drills. He wouldn't like it. He wouldn't like how they dogging him, but that's what you need to do. And he gonna be very uncomfortable for several months because they're gonna have you sparring with guys, heavyweights that could really punch, that will come after you, to knock your ass out. So if you're not on your footwork not on point, they'll knock you out. You get some really small fighters. When you sparring, you spar with little guys smaller than you, so they're quicker than you. That are pressure fighters. You know, get a little pit bull or something. Get pit bull or get you know, a fighter of the caliber of Cambosis, tenacious kind of guy. And them little guys, and let them loose. It's like, hey, make sure you can catch him. Catch him and land punches. All you can use is your stick, no right hand, none of that. You're not using no power. You're just using the stick, and you gotta move around the ring, and you gotta get away from them. They mustn't touch you. That's the kind of fucking footwork and training he has to get. It's gonna be fucking intense. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of thing he needs to push him to that next level. So when he faces Bivol, it's gonna be like a cakewalk. You know, because you need that footwork. You need that footwork. That's everything. Everything that sets up the angles and everything is footwork. And he has to do a crash course in that shit. They gotta run drills like crazy. You understand? And you have to be able to have the footwork on counter, footwork on bob and weave, footwork on whatever you're working on. So that's what I'm talking about. Canelo need to have that. And if he has it, piece of cake. He'll get the victory over Bivol. But that's a hell of a lot of work, and training starts today. With Usyk and Anthony Joshua needs to fight Usyk as how Teofimo Lopez fought Lomachenko, how Mayweather fought Pacquiao, how what's his name, Ugas, how Ugas, I forgot what his first name is. But anyway, how Ugas fought Pacquiao. You have to be able to use your jab, and you have to be able to use your right hand. You know, it's not just the right hand. You have to use the jab as well. Because the jab gets you to pick up the opponent. Of course, you can get to their head. You can get to their body really easy with the jab and the right hand. So you keep them sort of where you want them to be. If you want to fight at mid-range, well, the jab, you throw short jabs and short hooks to keep them right there when they enter the pocket, or you try to bait them in with the jab, and so you can throw the right hand down the center, you know. So it depends on what range they're fighting at. If you're fighting at the outside of the pocket, you want to stay on the outside, can't keep length, and just shoot your jab when you're ready because probably you have superior reach. That's another thing, but you got to pick them also. You got to bait them. You got to pick them with the jab and throw the right hand. So it's like a lot. It's a lot more than I'm saying because it's very specific, and it's very specific for each and every fighter. But the point is, the idea is that. So with Anthony Joshua, that's what he needs to be doing. He needs to be circling to Usyk's power hand, which will be his left hand, and he needs to pressure Usyk. He needs to close the distance, try and get a clinch out of him, and then rough him up on the inside. You gotta rough him up on the inside. You gotta fuck him up on the inside. You gotta rough him up. Put your weight down on him. I mean, bully him. Run him into the ropes. You know, you have to physically manhandle him on the inside to wear him down because he's still going to be a guy that's smaller. And then once the referee breaks you, you got to go back to trying to close the distance, line out right hand, but also using the jab to the body, chop to the head. You know, when he tries to get the foot position on you, you got to turn into the punch to land it on him. You got to set up a trap so that he will want to go to your weak side and then pop the trap on him. So there's all these little things you got to do with guys like that, Usyk and Joshua. So Joshua does have a chance of beating Usyk. With Canelo, he need to work on his foot speed because Beaver can fight. I thought Beaver was only an outside fighter, but he can fight at any range. Beaver don't throw a lot of shots on the inside though, so maybe you could outwork him on the inside. Just keep on touching him to the body, touch him to the body. He might be landing nothing, but just keep on be ball busy on the inside. Make the fight more of an inside fight. That's what Canelo need to do once he close range. You get him on the ropes. You try to cut off his exit point, and you get your head into his chest. I don't know if Canelo does that. Canelo doesn't really do that. That's not his style. But get your head up in his chest, and again, cramping for space, and just keep on working. You know, that's what you got to do with a Beaver. You got to physically restrain him, like how Cotto physically restrained Mayweather. You got to take your hand and actually physically restrain him. No, you're not going there. You're not going here. And you work his body. You know what I mean? Because that's the only way you beat those guys sometimes. I'll try to see you on the next live. It's time to take mothers of my family to Golden Carol. All you can eat. Salute to all the happy mothers. Happy Mother's Day to you and yours. Thank you very much, sir. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Oh, God knows y'all are the best things ever. And when you lose your mother, you lose a piece of yourself. So I just want to give Happy Mother's Day to each and every mother out there. And I need to the people around here as well. I'm going to catch you guys later. I'm what you need. Peace.